Space is just too goddamn big, thought the Navigator. Ursula Cooper often pondered just how did she fall into this godforsaken job in the first place. She thought to herself, Titan, now they want us to go to Titan. Well, why not? We have nothing better to do except maybe go back to Mars, sleep in a regular bed, or hang out at Mark Watney's winking at rich prospectors. Like it or not, Ursula was good at her job, or at least good at tending the computers that were good at their jobs. They called her a navigator, but bithead was a better word for it. Still, she was largely left to her own devices, and that was one of the perks of this job. No one breathing down your neck. She chuckled to herself. I guess they just don't want to end up on the aisle when they're trying to get to Ceres. The freighter, Eliza Pinkney, was basically a powerful engine created to move any kind of large mass around the solar system. This could be ice from Ceres, nickel or iron from 16 Psyche, or hydrocarbons from Titan. The Pinkney would haul almost anything, anywhere, anytime she was available. Like her namesake, she would not quit. She had a complement of 52 people, including Captain Marias Gayata. His name meant ice, which rather matched his personality. Still, he had put Ursula in charge of their complement of navigators, and they were all fairly competent. They did not require a lot of management. Gato was a decent sort, just not very talkative. All in all, Ursula felt pretty good about a job she had only held for a little over 3 years. Before she had management potential, now she had management skills. That was the upside. The downside was that she was a young woman out here, several astronomical units from Earth, though her actual home now was on Mars, and this job was very lonely and often boring. One old Mars trader told her, boring is fantastic. You will learn to love boring. Boring means that you are not about to be asphyxiated in the vacuum or roasted by your nuclear reactor. My advice is embrace the boredom. Ursula wanted to have a normal social life, maybe get married, start a business, have some kids, etc. The pay here could not be beaten. Just 2 more years doing these cargo runs, and she could afford to start a business and a family with no worries on Mars. In more desperate days, she thought of dalliances with some of the crew members, but deep down, she knew that would not fly. Captain Gayata would definitely back her on that. At least one overly zealous suitor had been left at Ceres Station for not leaving her alone. Ursula sat there by herself, as she generally did on this job. Though the Pinkney had 52 people, they worked in 3 shifts, which cut the numbers down. There was always someone in navigation at the bow of the vessel and others manning the reactors at the stern. This meant a lot of alone time for Ursula, and this is often when she pondered the endless black outside the triple-pane Alcon canopy. She often laughed when she'd actually sit down in a pub on Mars. You see, people watch too many movies. It is true that in space no one can hear you scream, even if you're alive long enough to try. Yet every space movie has the roar of the engines in space as ships fly by. Also, the asteroid belt is not a flying gravel pit. The average distance between each asteroid is 600 Earth miles. The danger isn't hitting one because there's so many, more like there's so few and mostly very dark. Keep the radar on, folks. By Mars Coordinated Time, Ursula had scheduled her hours on during the so-called night shift. Out here, it was essentially always night, and approximately the same number were always working, relaxing, or sleeping. Regardless, this particular night seemed to have a much different feel about it. Ursula could not put her finger on what the differences were, but she knew something was off. The familiar, gentle hum of machinery was still there, but there was a sinister edge to it. Just stop, she said to herself. You're letting your imagination run away with you. Nothing is amiss. Remember, boring is good. Hours later, the feeling had not gone away. To the computer she had dubbed Nikki, she asked, how many crew are scheduled to work right now? A woman's voice crooned, the scheduled complement of the Eliza Pinkney is currently set at 15. Nothing unusual there. Roughly a third of the crew were on duty. On a whim, Ursula asked, Nikki, how many are actually on duty right this minute? Waiting for the expected reply, Ursula was startled to hear, the current number of duty stations being manned is 8. This was definitely not normal. Were half the complement having a secret crap game somewhere on the ship? She thought. Everyone had a locator badge they were to wear at all times. Whether they were sleeping, working, in the shower, it did not matter. In an emergency, the captain or XO had to know where everyone was. Left unsaid, there was not much for the crew to do but get into the escape pods and hope for the best. Nikki, do you know where the other 7 scheduled crew are right now? Promptly, the answer came back, no, Crewman Cooper. Their whereabouts are not known to me or my monitoring systems. The badges are either not working or not aboard the Eliza Pinkney at this time. Cold sweat ran down the back of Ursula's neck. Nikki, do you know where Captain Gayata is or his XO, Mr. Chu? The reply came as quickly as before. No, Crewman Cooper, the badges are inactive or not on board. Ursula held her wrist to see if she was still alive. Her pulse was racing. Calm down, girl, calm down. Keep your wits about you, and all will be well. Maybe this is a big practical joke to play on the newest sailor. Though she was never to leave her post, she had to check matters out for herself. Nikki, go through the corridor logs with face matching for the missing crew. Are they moving about with no badges, or have they blown them out the airlocks? I'm going to take a look around for the human touch. Let me know what you find. Oh, and go through the logs to see when tracking for those badges stopped. Suddenly, the Pinkney resounded with loud metallic clanging and violent rocking. Something is attached to the ship. Pirates? On this run, we're empty. They should know that. Nikki, how many crewmen are on board? The reply came quickly. There are 14 crew members aboard, including Navigator Cooper. Sounds of scraping or cutting resonated through the hull. Screw it, I'm heading for the nearest escape pod. Getting on the PA, Ursula announced, to any and all crew still aboard the Pinkney, this is Navigator Cooper. The captain and XO are missing. Something is attacking us, so unless you want to play hero, get the hell off the ship if you can get to a pod. To herself, Cooper kept repeating, boring, boring, boring. Oh Lord, please give me some boredom. Picking up what few personal items she had with her on shift, including a copy of Mutiny on the Bounty, Ursula made her way toward the forward pods. There were 2 corridors, port and starboard. Of course, she picked the wrong one. Sparks flew down from the ceiling, and something was punching out the overhead panels. The hull breach alarms kicked in, and the airlock closed behind her. Quickly, she donned one of the emergency pressure suits kept in the corridor lockers. Nikki was giving her information that was no longer relevant. The aft pods had detached, and she was the only crewman left on the Eliza Pinkney. A green-colored vapor shot through the breach, and Cooper ducked into a maintenance access corridor. If she could follow this, then bust through the central bulkhead, maybe she could make it to the starboard pods. Ursula said, maintenance, tools, pry bar? Not enough. Cutting torch. Just then, something truly hideous appeared. Long tentacles reached into the narrow passage as she slid just out of reach. She found a torch and started cutting at the dead end while something with several eyes grasped in frustration. Gotta get through, she chanted. 6 weeks later, the last pod from the Eliza Pinkney made it to the shipping lanes. Cramped up and half starved, Ursula began her early retirement from space services. Her business started with hazard pay and a non disclosure agreement.